Hello, crafty friends. Good afternoon. Welcome to Stamp and Create with Beth. I'm Beth Roy, an Independent Stampin' Up demonstrator. And today I'm going to do part 2 of my One Sheet Wonder. Part 1 featured 2 6 by 12 inch pieces of designer series paper. I cut those up and I have the remainder of those cards. So just to recap, we made this card. So this is the Nature Walk designer series paper. And I paired it with tons of other stamp sets and dies to make a set of cards. So these are the ones we made in part 1, and we're going to finish up. Now in part 1, I did cut one of my pieces of paper incorrectly. I have switched those out with some new pieces, so they are the correct size for these cards. Okay, so let's jump in. This has some coloring and it has stamping, and I do have one thing I need to die cut. So I have my mini cut and emboss to do that. Okay, so this one I love. So this is a green piece that's from that Nature Walk, and these are the 3 1x4 inch strips. And then I have a branching out die cut. And I've also used on this card these new Moody Palette Glossy Dots. So this is part of a new suite, but I love these colors. They go with lots of things. So the colors in here are white, which you can't see. It's under this flap. There's Cloud Cover, Old Olive, and Secret Sea, and they're nice and flat. So these are going to be great for lots of projects. So let's jump in. For this card, I used the Lovely Florals stamp set. I stamped the flower and I used this big hello. So let's get stamping. Now I stamped off the paper multiple times to get that leaf pattern. And I used basic gray ink. So let me grab my flower here. And you can stamp, I'm going to color with some stamping blends. You can stamp in the classic inks and color with the blends. So I'm using basic gray. I like this a little softer line than the Memento Black. So I'm just making sure I have my die cut the correct side up. It has some stitching detail, and I'm going to stamp my flower on here. And then over on this side, I just inked this up again, and I stamped some of the leaves. And then I will stamp, I like to stamp my greeting after I've colored. It's just a preference, but I like to do it afterwards just in case I get color in that area. The Stampin' Blends can dull the color a little bit, so I want that greeting to be nice and fresh. Set that to the side. Now on this one, I used light cloud cover. So if you're not familiar with the blends, they come in a light and a dark combo pack of the Stampin' Up colors. And then I also have a Copic, that's B000. It just added a little brightness, and it's lighter, okay, than this. So it's a brighter color, but it's more saturated with the alcohol solution. So sometimes I bring those in when I want to dilute it a little bit. And then for the leaves, I just used Old Olive Light and Dark. So I'm just going to color it quickly and leave a little bit of white space here and there. So the blends have 2 ends. It has a brush tip and a nib tip end. And I like that they come in a light and a dark. So again, I'm just coloring kind of quickly. Normally, if I really want it to be a, you know, artwork, I do section by section. And I'm going to color these in right down here like they're leaves. So you can take your time, or you can do a quick coloring. I typically do the dark part, and then I saturate it with the light. And you could add lots of colors here, yellows and different brighter greens, but I'm just choosing to do minimal color choices here. Okay, and for my flower, I just, I did some cloud cover. And honestly, I wasn't really concerned with light and dark. I'm just adding color. Okay. Now I did use this. I said this, and it's this is a bright blue, but it's saturated, so it kind of dilutes that out a little bit. So it's a little brighter than that cloud cover. Actually, it's a lot brighter, but I thought it worked well. And I left some white on the tip. So each time you go over it and add color, you're darkening it a little bit. If you wanted it to be a little bit lighter, you could come in with your color lifter. And really, this is just the alcohol solution in there. And it helps kind of smooth that edge, and it just adds some more alcohol solution. So it pushes that color through your paper and just kind of, it just dilutes it. So that's the best explanation I have for that. And then the middle I did with some just light Old Olive, and I just did dots. And then I'm going to stamp my hello. And I have my ink pad off here to the side, so I'm just inking it up with that basic gray. And I love that big hello. ready to assemble. Now the inside, you can leave plain, or you can stamp some more flowers and decorate it up. And I'm just going to use a piece of basic white on the inside. And this is 5 1/4 by 4. You can use the smaller size if you like, so use whatever size you like. This is cloud cover. It's the standard 8 1/2 by 5 1/2 base, and it's scored at 4 1/4. I like to score my card bases. I feel like it makes them easier to fold and get a nice crease. I'm just gonna leave mine plain on the inside. I like to have lots of space to write, and I can always stamp something if I decide to before I send it. I can always do that later. So if you decide you want to stamp something later, you can take a Post-it note and block off your card base there, kind of just mask that area. Okay, now we're just going to assemble. So I'm just simply taking my 3 strips and stacking them like that. And I'm just kind of guessing how far they need to be. If you want it to be exact, you can measure it out. And you can also make them wonky like this if you want to change it up and not do them straight on. I think I got it down a little further. That's okay. And this is going to go on with dimensionals. And then we'll add some bling. Oops. There we go. And now I'm going to use, I use the white dots. You could use the Secret Sea or whatever color you like. Maybe you used a different pattern here. But I do like these. So I used one big dot and 2 small. And I just make them, I like to spread 2 together, but spread out a little bit, and then 1 in the opposite side. And that is all for that card. So simple. You could make a stack of these and they'd be ready to go for lots of occasions. You could stamp different greetings on there. So there is that one. Okay, our next card is kind of masculine, and it is using, the greeting is from Reason to Celebrate. This is a brand new set, as well as Gears and Texture. So I only stamped one thing on here, and then the chevron, and we're going to cut that out. I have a scrap laying here to do that. So this set does have dies. That is where the gears came from. This little rounded rectangle is from Nested Essential Dies. So let's get stamping. And this paper is also from Nature Walk. Okay. The other side has the words. So you could use either one that fits your theme. If you wanted to put a flower on this, you could have easily turned it over and used the word side. So let's do our stamping really quick. I'm using Misty Moonlight ink. And then we will assemble. So I'm going to stamp this gear right here. And this piece. This is turning out to be one of my favorite sets, as you can see from all the love on these stamps. So I want this little tiny piece. It looks like a screw. And then I want this chevron piece. And I just wanted a little detail there in the middle of that. I'm going to stamp this. And this is just on a, I didn't stamp very well. Clean that. Now, when you're stamping with this, the grooves here are not real deep. So I've accidentally inked those. So just take your time and barely tap on your ink pad. We'll just use the darker side. It will be fine. So this is Basic Beige two-tone. And it has a light side and a dark side. There we go. And we will cut that with our scissors. That one does not have a coordinating die, but it's very simple to cut. And our greeting is from this really nice set. It has lots of greetings in here, lots of different occasions. And it has a little tiny happy. And then it has, where's the, there it is. I've used this happy birthday quite a bit. So I'm going to stamp the word birthday first because it is the biggest. And I want to make sure I have enough room. I'm just stamping along the bottom of that die cut. Now on this, I have traced on this side with a Sharpie where these go. So I did that instead of stamping the paper and adhering it. And then this happy, because I want this to overlap a little bit, I put this more towards the middle or to the right side. This set is going to get a ton of use. It has all kinds of celebrations in there. New Year, St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day, Easter, birthday, graduation, anniversary, and I love these little scripty sayings. I've already used several of them. So this is a good thing to add to your collection. Again, on the inside, you can stamp or you can leave it plain. So for this, I'm just going to use my snips. And cut this and cut that side very straight. So I am leaving some of the cardstock as a border. And you can always trim it down. Okay, now we're ready to assemble. So I've used various colors. I have, this is the light basic beige, and I have two of these rings. One's light, one is dark. I'm going to put the darker one on top, but I'm going to adhere them together to have just a little bit of dimension here for these. And I've used pecan pie, the light and the dark. Oh, if my adhesive would. Oh, there we go. A little too much there on that one side, but that's okay. Just spread it out. So I'm just layering these to help give it a little bit of dimension without using dimensionals. You could use dimensionals. I found it kind of hard to use it on these little tiny spaces. Sorry, I walked away to get my adhesive remover. Now I'm going to adhere this on top. So these gears, you can use them separate. You can stack them up and make them very 3D. They're really fun. And a couple of them do coordinate with the stamp set. So a couple of the gears do. So we have some dark pecan pie and some light. There's all of our bits and pieces, and then we have this crumb cake grid paper, and then our base is Misty Moonlight. All the bases are 8.5 by 5.5. And I just like to put this about the middle. And then we're just going to adhere this. Now, I didn't use any dimensionals on this. You certainly could if you wanted to, but I just left everything as one layer without any dimension. So I just put adhesive there in the middle. So I'm going to place this down first, and then I'm going to tuck everything else. So just a little bit of glue on that. I want it to overlap just a little bit, and then we'll put this, and I think I did the original more to the side, so you can change up the layout. I just really like the new gears and texture set. I think it's a great thing to have in your stash. Can be used for all kinds of things. Steampunk. I really think of just fun mechanical things, and my son likes to build lots of things, so this set was perfect. And I love the textures in the stamp set. They're for lots of different themes and cards, and you could definitely use it for scrapbooking. Okay, just gonna overlap that a little bit. So there we go. Fun birthday card for any person that likes mechanical things, science things. All right, our next card coming up, I paired some textures from the Gears and Texture set with this floral, and the greeting comes from Beautiful Motifs. This is just a note. So this is a great any occasion card. The image stamping, I used basic gray. The texture stamping, I used some crumb cake, so it's like a tone on tone, and I also used Blackberry Bliss. So let's stamp our flower. I colored it with Stampin' Blends. Okay. Excuse me. And I don't really think it went off the page, but we're going to bring the scrap in just in case for when we color. So this die right here is a basic white circle, and it is from the Spotlight on Nature dies. I'm just going to stamp this so it fills that circle. And let's go ahead and stamp our other things, and then I will color our flower. Let's do our crumb cake texture. So you don't have to do the textures. I just think they're really fun. And it gives a little rustic feel to our paper. So there's lots of textures in here. I use this big splatter. Let's add in some of this one too. And then I use this big gear right here. Again, you could use whatever. You could add in more. There's also a smaller gear here. Let's see. Oops. Okay, so I'm just dipping into the crumb cake and I'm splattering it. You can stamp off. You can stamp as much as you want, whatever you like. Okay, let's do this one. Now, I didn't use this one on the original, I thought it might be fun. It reminds me of, some of these remind me of coffee splatters, which I love the coffee sets. So these textures are going to be used a lot for my cards. Okay. Let me tuck these back in really quick. and we will switch inks. So you do kind of need to know where you want this to go. So this is Blackberry Bliss, again, same size, 8.5 by 5.5. And I have it off to the left just a little bit so that this white circle hangs off onto the Blackberry Bliss base. So I know that I want this to kind of peek out. So you can lay this down and kind of judge where you want that to go. And so I'm just going to kind of guess. I'm going to move that away and put that down. Now, if you wanted more than one gear, then you could certainly add that. Let me clean this one off. I am using my chamois to clean, so I put it in a clear stamp case, and this just works with water, and you can use it to clean your stamps quickly. Okay, I'm going to bring in that smaller gear and add it to this one, just so you can see a little variation and see how this one stamps. So ink that up. I'm going to pull this in a little bit, and I probably stamped that down a little too far. That's okay. We're going to stamp another gear. Our just a note is going to go down here. So let's stamp this right there. And then maybe a tiny one down here. Let's see how that looks. And then we're going to stamp our greeting. Again, that greeting is from the Beautiful Motifs. And this has quite a few greetings that I like to use often. I think Just a Note is probably my most used one out of this set. And again, this is in Blackberry Bliss. And I'm just going to stamp it along the bottom here. Okay, now we're ready to color. The inside, again, you could stamp some gears along with a flower, or whatever you like on the inside, or just use a plain white piece with your message on it. For this one, I used some unusual colors together. I used the light lemon lime twist along with the light gold olive for my leaves. And then I used Blackberry Bliss light and dark for my flower. Now this Blackberry Bliss is not as dark as the paper. So sometimes our different mediums are a little bit different in shade than the paper. So you'll notice that from the dyed cardstock and the blends, and even the ink pads can be just a tad different. So don't worry, they still work well together. So the blends have 2 tips, and sometimes I like to use the brush tip and sometimes I like to use the nib tip. Just do what's comfortable for you. My flower. Now on the leaves I did the light old olive. Just threw a little color in the middle. I also put it a little bit in the middle of the flower. And then I used this brighter light lemon lime twist to bring in that bright green. This color looks really good with that Blackberry Bliss. Don't be afraid to mix up some unusual colors together and see how you like it. Different greens, yellows. When you look at leaves, you don't always see just bright primary green, or you see lots of other colors. So and then I did the middle here. Okay, now we're ready to assemble. Again, there's that paper with the words. So if you liked this going this direction, you don't have to stamp on it. You could have easily just stuck your flower on there. Okay, there's lots of options with this paper. Make sure you glue your greetings at the bottom. Again, I have it off center a little bit, off to that left-hand side. And then this I have on dimensionals. It's really fun to just stamp your designer series paper and make it look a little bit different. And again, I just have some basic white, 4 inches by 5 1/4. For the inside. If you have some strips of this paper left over, maybe you've chopped up lots of pieces in your paper pack and you have little strips, you could add a strip of that to the inside as well. Okay, moving on, we have 2 more cards. Here is our next one. This one I've already stamped the flower and die cut it. It is from Gallery Blossom, or I'm sorry, Gallery Blooms. It's in the same suite as the Beautiful Motifs. And I am really loving this color combo of Cloud Cover and Mossy Meadow. So the only color coming in on this is where we colored with blends. So I've used a little strip here, and then I've just layered my elements. So this is from the Stylish Shape dies. I'm going to stamp that with a greeting from Exploring Nature. So this stamp set goes along with the Exploring Nature scrapbooking items, but it coordinates very well with the Nature Walk paper. And that is where my greeting Hello Sunshine came from. And it is going to be stamped in basic gray. And for the blends, I used light Cloud Cover and the color lifter just to go around the edge a little bit and lighten the edge just a little bit. And Old Olive. And I think I used maybe a little bit of the dark. You could use the Mossy Meadow blends as well. I wanted it a little bit lighter, so I like the light Old Olive. So bring my scrap in. I'm going to color this really quickly. So this stamp has quite a bit of shading on it. So you can choose to maybe stamp, if you wanted it lighter, you could choose like a smoky slate. Or you could even stamp it in the Old Olive and color. And I left the middles just as they're stamped. I didn't color on the inside of those. And then just to kind of smooth it out a bit, I went around my flower where my color stopped, and I just used that color lifter along the edge just to lighten it a little bit. And it's just pushing that color through your paper. So make sure that you have something underneath. To protect that. There we go. Now we're ready to adhere everything down. Again, I have this a little off center, just a tad. And you could make this a portrait or a landscape card. Completely up to you. And this is just adhered with, I like to use the liquid glue. And then I'm going to put my greeting down with some dimensionals. Don't forget to use all your dimensionals. Those ones around the edge are sometimes the best. And I have my flowers hanging off this edge and my greeting just hanging off this one a little bit. There we go. Now we're on to our last card. And this one has a little bit of stamping, coloring, and I'm going to die cut. Now, I do want to tell you, this is the white willow. It does not work as well with the blends. But I'm going to use it anyway because I have a scrap. So for this one, I used a set that is retired. And I also used this Fabulous Sayings. It is a set that you can get in January. It's a product of the month. And when you spend $75 in my online store before tax and shipping, you can opt to buy this for $5. So this is the product of the month is $5 unless otherwise noted. December we had a paper pack. This month we have a stamp set. It is while supplies last. If you've bought one, you can only buy it once. So you only get one of those. But it is a great set if you haven't picked it up yet. Okay, this is Charming Day. So I have the stamp set and the coordinating dies, and that is where this flower comes from. I'm going to stamp it in the basic gray. So this one is already gone, but it's one of my favorites. I love this floral image. And then I'm also going to stamp something else that I have over here that we're going to make this grid. So that is not designer series paper. I'm going to show you how I made that patterned paper. I'm going to go ahead and stamp my greeting. That way I'm coloring and die cutting all at once. Just use that big hello. It's probably one of my favorite things to put on the card because I feel like it makes your card into any occasion that you need it for. So if you don't know for sure what you want, you can use just general greetings. So I did cut a little flag on the end So I'm just going to stamp here to the right hand side because this is going to layer under here. And then I will show you quickly how I made my own patterned paper. So in this lovely floral set, we have this grid, and it reminded me very much of the patterned grid paper that is in this Nature Walk paper pack. So I am going to take this piece of paper. This is a basic beige two-toned piece. You could use crumb cake, and I'm going to use the basic beige ink on this one. So I need this really nice texture stamp, and we're just going to stamp that right onto that piece of paper. And I love the two-tone cardstock. You can use whatever side you want, dark or light. That's the dark side. That's the light side. And I'm just going to stamp this grid. Now, it is a little hard for me to see with the camera, so I'm just going to do my best, and if I have to stamp it again, I will. So you can see I have a little line here. I'm just going to take this side and line it up the best I can and stamp it again. So when you're looking for stamp sets to add to your collection, look for things and textures that you might want to add as well. So this stamp set has a texture, it has the little flag banner, and it has this really pretty flower along with all the fun sayings. Okay, so those are ready to go. We're going to do some coloring and die cutting, and then we have completed our cards. I'm going to show you all the cards that we have made with this One Sheet Wonder template. You can get this template from me as a PDF tutorial download when you spend $50 in my online store. This is an offer that I am offering. It is not through Stampin' Up or anybody else, and it is only available to customers in the US. And it is through January of 2026. So all you have to do is order in my online store and opt in, and when your order reaches $50 before tax and shipping, you can get this tutorial for free. Also, it's bonus days at Stampin' Up. So if you, through February 2nd, when you spend $50, you before tax and shipping, you get a $5 coupon code emailed to you for every $50 that you spend on a single order. And at $75, you can opt to buy that product of the month for $5. So it's really just adding on to those fun bonuses we have right now. Okay, so for my flower, I used light, pretty, and pink, and I used the Natural Tones light 1000. So these come in pairs. This has a light and dark of the same color. This has, the Natural Tones has 2 independent colors. The light has 900 and 1000. So I'm using the 1000, which is a really light pink. So let's just add some color here around the edge of my petals and in the middle. Remember, this paper does not take as much of that ink as our dyed cardstocks. They're thicker, so it will kind of dull those gray lines a little bit, and it doesn't blend as well, but that's okay. I still like using it So there is that really light pink. And this is meant to be like a flesh tone, but I really like mixing it with some of the other pinks that we have. Okay. And then I just used Old Olive again on the leaves. You can use, again, any green combo you want, any combo. The Designer Series paper that I'm pairing this with is a Mossy Meadow, and it's just like a swirl design. It's really beautiful textured paper. And even though it's called Nature Walk, I really think it goes well with lots of things. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to bring in my mini cut and emboss, and we're going to quickly cut this out. So this is, if you have something that's 3.5 inches or less, this is great for that. Just die cutting maybe greetings and small things. I'm just using the coordinating die here. So for the mini, you need your plate. One, it does tell you how to use it. And then we have a cutting plate. And then our die. You can tape it if you want. So I keep some Post-it tape nearby. You can use washi tape, anything that's low, like a low tack tape, so it comes off. I think it moved a little bit, but that's okay. Go. And this folds up and stores nicely on a shelf. And then I just gently peel this off. I do like this Post-it tape. I get it from Amazon, and I reuse it several times until it loses all of the sticky. So if you have this flower set in your stash, it is great for lots of different cards. And it will be staying in mine. There are certain things that I like to keep, and I love this line art, so that's what I'm going to plan to keep. Okay, I just used a basic white base. Okay, make sure that it opens the correct way. I did not get an even fold on that. Okay, there we go. So I used almost a full piece here of this beautiful paper, and then I'm going to add this on top, and then my flower, and then I'm going to cut a little thing in here, and this is going to tuck under like that. Comes together pretty simple. You could mix and match your two patterned papers and layer those instead of stamping a textured piece. Oops. I really like this. Now I'm gonna let's do this one first because I want to tuck it under. So to do this, I cut this about the middle, and I just make a little cut, and then I'm going from the corner up to where I made that cut. And I like to flip it over and go from the other side, again, the corner to there. If you have the punch, you could use the punch instead. So I'm going to do it this way, just so this little element's on the outside. And then I'm going to tuck my greeting underneath. You could trim it a little bit, up to you. So I'm just putting a little bit here. Now I'm not gonna press this down yet. You could trim it too. Doesn't really have to be this long. So I'm gonna tuck it under there. And then press those down and then add this. Now I did not add this on dimensionals, but you could. You could pop this up and give it some dimension. Again, you can add a white piece to your white card base if you want. Sometimes I do that if I don't use the thick, just to kind of add a little extra weight in there. But you can stamp the inside. You could use extra pieces of designer series paper or stamp happy birthday if you want this to become a happy birthday card. So there we have it. There are our cards. Let me go back through and show you all the ones that we created. So again, this was 2 pieces of 6x12 designer series paper. You can mix and match any patterns you want. I chose to keep all the patterns, just 1 card per cut, but you could double these up and layer them. And I love coloring the die cuts and adding them. The fun ants. You can keep it really simple and just do a greeting. So there we go. We made 10 cards, And since I made them twice, I actually have 20. So I have 20 cards all ready and set to go. So you could choose to do two 12 by 12 pieces, or if you just have some 6 by 12 pieces laying around that you want to figure out how to use up that piece, this is a great pattern for you. Thank you so much for watching, and if you have questions, let me know in the comments. There will be links to the part 1 video, as well as a link to my online store for Stampin' Up. Thanks. Have a wonderful day.